Hello YouTube, it's Mr. Magz here, and a few weeks ago I made a video analyzing a The Gamer article about the 15 Pokemon that get worse when they evolve. Well, The Gamer is back at it again, because they clearly didn't understand last time that every single one of their picks on the Pokemon that get worse when they evolve was wrong. So someone else on this site, a completely different writer, decided she was going to take a crack at the 10 best and 10 most useless evolutions in Pokemon. Now, I'm not going to worry about the 10 best. I mean, they're pretty standard, like, fan servicey picks. But this guy, or girl, rather, I don't think she understands what the word useless means. And it's weird because I actually will go in depth a little bit on some of the 10 best if they're relevant, because some of the excuses they give for why the 10 most useless evolutions are bad also apply to the 10 best. So I'll get to that in a minute, but like I said, I honestly don't think she knows what the word useless means, and I'll get to that right now. So let's start the article. With so many types of Pokemon out there, it's tough to pick only 20 for this list. When we add in all the games, TV shows, and movies, there's a lot of media to take in. About 20 years worth of media. I didn't say over 20 years, because as of May 16th, 2017, it's been 21 years since Pokemon Red and Blue, or Red and Green rather, was released in Japan. That was the big deal last year, 20th anniversary, but whatever. There's bigger issues to worry about with this article. There's also all the different ways you can judge them. Base attack / special attack power, best all around, best at competing in battle, or looks as well as concept behind it. A Pokemon's concept and design doesn't make them useless, which I feel like this girl focuses way too hard on the idea that, oh, if a Pokemon doesn't look good or is not very creative, then it's useless, which that's not what useless means. Useless means they're just not good in any way. They're worthless. You don't want to use them. But there's quite a few Pokemon on this list that are actually pretty useful, but whatever. That's a lot. In this list, we tried to incorporate a little bit of everything. Some on the worst list are universally hated, and that's why they made it. While some on the best list are universally loved. I'm pretty biased. Who isn't when it comes to Pokemon? So take it as you will. Some I won't argue with. Some I won't argue if it's your favorite. Then it's your favorite. This article is also a compilation of evolutions, so your favorite Pokemon that doesn't evolve obviously didn't make it. Mimikyu was out of the running from the start. I don't know why you singled out Mimikyu, but whatever. Blastoise, Charizard, and Venusaur also didn't make it for a simple reason that it seemed impossible just to pick one of them. Charizard, obviously. I mean, I personally kind of like Blastoise a bit better, but like, just for a list like this, I mean, really? And also, you didn't just have to pick one. You could have picked 3 and just... You could have picked all 3. It's the top 10. You had room, but whatever. They are timeless classics, but to pick one would be unfair and difficult. With all that in mind, here are the 10 best and 10 worst evolutions in Pokemon history. Now there you say 10 worst evolutions, but in the title you said the 10 most useless evolutions, which are two pretty different things. Saying it's the worst evolution implies, oh, its design doesn't look good when it evolves, it has worse stats and whatnot. But useless simply means it's not good in any way. So there is a difference there, but whatever, I'm getting nitpicky at this point. And like I said, there's way bigger issues here. So starting out at the 10th worst evolution, or 10th most useless evolution, Cofagrigus. Black and White brought some very good additions to the Pokemon universe, with Scraggy being one of my personal favorites. On the other hand, Cofagrigus is the most ridiculous evolution I have ever seen. It starts out as Wispy Yamask, who seems Asian in influence. Yamask seems Asian in influence. Yeah, just like last time, I have a pretty in-depth Pokemon database here, Bulbapedia, pulled up with Yamask's page. I don't know what about this would be Asian inspired to you, but clearly she didn't even bother going to the site or looking up anything regarding Yamask, because origin. Yamask is based on an Egyptian Ba holding a death mask. Egyptian. What Asian inspiration would Yamask have? What are you thinking of? Then suddenly it turns into an ugly cartoonish sarcophagus. An Egyptian sarcophagus. Yeah. The Ba, once the person is in their tomb, in their sarcophagus, the Ba comes and takes their soul up and takes it to the next life. That's what I understand that the Ba does. Very much so Egyptian inspired. It would make sense that the Ba would take the spirit of whatever Pokemon or human it last took, it's the face of, and then transport it to a sarcophagus of the next life, and then they would come to life. That just kind of makes sense to me. And yes, the lore does add up. I don't know what the lore definitely matches. I just explained that, but whatever. Yamask was a person who had died, and if you wore their mask, you would become possessed by the Pokemon. Cofagrigus turns you into a mummy. Yeah. You die in both cases. So Cofagrigus pulls you in. I don't get why you're saying you have such an issue here, but whatever. The only connective tissue in this case is that they are both ghosts. They could have gone in a much more interesting direction when it comes to Japanese mythology. It doesn't even get a type upgrade. Well, but, what? A more interesting direction with Japanese mythology? What Asian influence do you think Yamask had? I'm really curious, because nothing about Yamask screams Asian influence in the slightest. At least from what I can tell. I googled it recently, after seeing this article a few days ago. I googled it and I couldn't really find anything Asian inspired that Yamask could be based on. If anyone in the comment section has any idea what she's talking about, please tell me, because I want to know. But why do you have... It's almost like she just ignored the idea that Yamask is based on the Ba and just wanted to complain about Cofagrigus being a sarcophagus. What do you have issue with that? And why does that make him useless? Cofagrigus has insane defenses and actually pretty good HP for a ghost. It's granted, it's not like it's basically a more special base Dusclops. So it's not that bad of a Pokemon. They generally, and his ability Mummy can do some pretty weird shenanigans with that. So I got messed up by Cofagrigus multiple times online and in the Elite Four and whatnot. So I really don't know why you're so just upset by the idea that Cofagrigus and Yamask don't look the same. That's why it's on this list. Even though later on in the list, in the top 10 best, you have Gyarados there, who doesn't look even remotely similar to Magikarp. It's kind of the same scenario with the last article I read. The guy was like, oh, I don't like Beedrill because it doesn't look anything like Kakuna or Weedle. But that doesn't mean it's bad. Just because pre-evolution doesn't necessarily look like the evolution, even though the Cofagrigus still has the mask part, so it still keeps that aspect. Just because it doesn't necessarily look like the pre-evolution doesn't mean it's a bad evolution. But I spent too much time on the first one. I'll continue. So like I said, I'm not gonna focus too hard on the best list unless it's relevant, and I'm just gonna talk about Shedinja real quick because the last guy I read, Shedinja was the number 1 pick for top 10 top 10 Pokemon that get 15 Pokemon that get worse when they evolve. Shedinja was number 1 on that list, and he didn't even mention Wonder Guard. So, at least I appreciate her putting Shedinja on the best list, even though I don't see her mentioning Wonder Guard at all again here, but whatever. At least she had some sense of what Pokemon really are, so I'll let that one slide for now. Useless, Beartic. Beartic is, all in all, not terrible. But it seems like laziness on the part of Nintendo, Game Freak. Nintendo doesn't have any direct involvement in the creation of Pokemon, at least as far as I can tell. They just publish the games. I am not a fan of recycled ideas, but it's painfully obvious that Cumchoo is just a rehashing of Teddiursa and Beartic is Ursaring. Now, I'll give her that. There are a bunch of 5th gen Pokemon that I would just look at them as like, you're just a golem. You're just a love disc. You're just an afro-wearing Tauros. There are quite a few Pokemon that, definitely feel like repeats of previous Pokemon. And, yeah, I can definitely see that with Beartic, especially since they both have, pretty similar stats. Now, granted, they do have very different abilities. I don't remember exactly what Beartic has. I know it has Slush Rush now, and I don't remember what his other ability is, but it actually makes him more useful in rain or hail teams. But and Ursaring was basically you had to give it a Toxic Orb in order to make it useful. But regardless, I do agree with him or her that Beartic is very reminiscent of Ursaring, but that doesn't necessarily make him a bad Pokemon. Whatever. Now I could forgive them for making an ice version of Teddiursa, but the fact that they do the exact same thing when evolving is what pushes this guy onto the worst list. Also, why does Cubchoo have to go the same evolution cycle as Teddiursa? Cute bear turned into large bear. They could have at least given him some distinguishing markings other than the icy snot. Perhaps even give him a different type when he evolves, fighting maybe. But instead, we get another bear. Yeah, I can't really, complain too much about this pick. Because, like I said, I kind of agreed, too. When I saw Beartic, I was like, oh, it's just an Ice Ursaring. It's not even fighting type, which I feel like would have been nice, especially since it learned Superpower and Hammer Arm and whatnot. So, yeah, although I still wouldn't necessarily call it useless. A lot of the picks on this article boil down to me having a problem with it over the idea that you call it useless. Not bad or worse or underwhelming even. Useless. Beartic isn't useless in a rain or hail team. He's actually pretty good. Doubling that speed, giving a super powerful Icicle Crash. Anything wrong with that, but he's not that bad in certain scenarios. But I personally wouldn't use one just on a regular team. So this is honestly probably the only one on this entire list I can kind of agree with would be on a top 10 worst evolutions list, to an extent at least. And then again, Gyarados is completely different from Magikarp, yet you're going to complain about Cofagrigus being completely different from Yamask, even though they both lore-wise actually do match up but whatever. Magmortar. Again with Magmortar. The last guy who wrote the 15 worst Pokemon last time, he also had Magmortar on this list, and I still don't understand why the site hates Magmortar so much. Nintendo obviously decided that Electabuzz and Magmar needed both pre-evolutions, and then, down the line, they both got evolutions as well. Chansey got the same treatment. It was a trend going on in Pokemon where they simply built off first-generation Pokemon. I mean, also, Snorunt, got an evolution, and so did Roselia. So some third gen Pokemon also, and I think did any second gen? Sneasel, yeah, Sneasel and Murkrow did. Magius and Gligar. Wow. Okay, whatever. And while we still see that occasionally now, where they build off previous generations, it's not as prevalent. But Magmortar seems pretty useless as an evolution, and it's just a pain to get. You have to level up Magmar while it's holding a Magmarizer, but good luck finding that without a walkthrough or Googling it. Two things. One, you have to level it up while it's holding one. No. And that would actually make it easier to get, honestly. Leveling up a Magmar is way easier than having to trade it with a friend. So you actually just lessened your argument there. Now, granted, being able to trade it instead of leveling it up means you can essentially get a level 2 Magmortar if you evolve Magby level 1, and then evolve a Magby at level 2 into Magmar and then trade it. You can technically get a Magmortar at level 2, but still, that's not how you get a Magmortar. You have to trade it. You have to trade a Magmar while it's holding a Magmarizer. And second, in more recent generations, they've made the Magmarizer relatively easy to get. There's a guy in the Seafoam Village, whatever that last village on Pony Island is, in Sun and Moon. He gives you an Electrizer, a Protector, and a Magmarizer just straight off the bat. If you just do RPG stuff and go into every building and talk to people, he'll give it to you. And if I'm not mistaken, in X and Y and even Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, there's people who just give it to you post-game. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure if you just talk to people, it's not a thing where you have to go find it. I think in 4th gen you did have to go out in the wild and find it somewhere, but they made it way easier to get this stuff in recent gens. So no, it's not that hard to get a Magmarizer, and it's not that hard to get a Magmortar if you have multiple devices that you can trade with. Whatever. Of course, that's if you can find a Magmar or Magby at all. A lot of versions don't have them running around. Honestly, I just have one in Pokemon Sun because I wanted to complete Pokédex. Wait, so literally your only reason for putting Magmortar on this list is because of how it evolves? And the way you have it evolving is actually easier than the way it actually evolves? I don't really understand what your point is here. At least the last guy mentioned the idea that his stats don't go up that much and his speed actually decreases. That's something. That actually kind of makes sense to an extent. It doesn't necessarily make Magmortar worse than Magmar, but it doesn't make him useless. You have no argument here. Magby is actually relatively easy to get in Sun and Moon. Or at least Sun, I think. Or whichever one you get Magby in. He's actually relatively easy to get. So I don't... Whatever. I would just want these people to at least try to make sense with their arguments. Don't just throw stuff, say it as fact, and then say it as a problem. That seems to be a problem with a lot of articles I've been reading lately. They just state things and say they're problems without actually going in depth as to why they're problems, but whatever. I'll go on. Glycopod, yeah, I love Glycopod. He's honestly become maybe in the top 10 favorite Pokemon. Just from playing him in game, I love Glycopod. But useless. Mega Gyarados. First off, I personally feel like Mega Evolutions shouldn't have been counted here, because that's something very different, and by definition, Mega Evolutions aren't really supposed to change all that much. I don't really think this girl really understood that. And I'll just read and say what I'm talking about. It's just a giant shrimp. It's a giant shrimp. You call that a giant shrimp? It's a giant sea dragon. Granted, it's not dragon type. It's dark because it's super scary. Just look at that thing. But whatever. They had the entirety of sea serpent and dragon lore, and they give us a stubby little sausage of a Pokemon. What? This thing is like 30 feet long. I think it's up there. Stubby little sausage of a Pokemon? How can you look at that and be, oh, that's not intimidating, that's not cool looking? Now, granted, Mega Gyarados isn't my favorite Mega Evolution. I feel like its stats are a bit weird, especially since they gave him 20, or is it 10 or 20 in special attack and didn't increase his speed at all. I think they should have changed that, but whatever. Design-wise, I really like him. I mean, I feel like he should have been a dragon type, but whatever. They decided to go dark, and that's fine. Like, what would you have done with Gyarados? Like, this, having that giant frill, the giant, like, having the spikes, the giant head crest thing, I think it looked pretty cool. But no, he looks like a sausage link, which I don't really get what you're going, whatever. When we heard that Gyarados was going to get a Mega Evolution, everyone was pretty excited. I mean, you go from weak little carp to a destroyer of worlds. And that should surely be an awesome serpent or dragon, something 100 feet long and maybe out of Dragon Ball. Again, Mega Evolutions aren't really supposed to change all that much. They're only supposed to, like, unlock the true potential of the Pokemon. So Gyarados wasn't going to get that much bigger. If you expected him to be 100 feet long, you clearly don't understand the point of Mega Evolutions. Instead, we got a worm that's constricting itself and has a meaner face and extra fins. It's all intimidation in the front and stubby legs in the back. It's essentially a mullet Pokemon. Admittedly, it has great stats, but its lack of oomph of other Mega Evolutions. What? Stubby legs? And stubby legs? What legs? What? That's not a leg. That's a fin. What legs are you talking about? I don't... See, I wouldn't have as big of an issue with this article if you just explained yourself a bit better. But no, they can't do that. Why would they do that? Milotic, yeah. Useless, Raichu. Oh dear, not again. The other guy also had Raichu on his list. And that wasn't a good argument over there. He basically just said, oh, the anime told me that Raichu is better than Pikachu. So it has to be true, right? This takes that argument to the extreme, and it's not pretty. There was an entire episode of Pokemon on why you don't evolve Pikachu. There's over 10 years of Pokemon cartoons saying why Pikachu will always be better than Raichu. Don't get me wrong, I love Raichu. He's a cutesy. Cutie? He's a cutie. But it's been drilled into my head since age 8 that you don't make Pikachu evolve with that Thunderstone. Really? That's so sheepy. Oh my gosh, you're just gonna take the... So you're saying that if someone didn't watch the show, then Raichu is fine. But if you do watch the show, oh no, Pikachu is way better, even though it's not. Even a Lipo Pikachu isn't necessarily better than Raichu, but whatever. Of course, I'm not talking about Alolan Raichu, but just plain old Raichu. Go back and watch the first season of Pokemon and get emotional watching Ash decide whether or not to evolve his buddy. Then watch Pikachu trounce Raichu. He only trounced Raichu in the Lieutenant Surge battle because that Raichu only knew electric moves. Lieutenant Surge wasn't a good trainer in that show. The Lieutenant Surge from Pokemon Yellow knew Mega Kick and Mega Punch, I'm pretty sure. That right. If the Lieutenant Surge in the show, if his Raichu knew Mega Kick, Raichu would have destroyed Pikachu. But no, because they decided to make Lieutenant Surge not a great trainer in the show, only using electric attacks, Pikachu was able to beat him because of the new Agility Quick Attack. That's all it was. Again, there's nothing exactly wrong with Raichu. We've just been trained to find him useless. Oh my gosh. Trained to find a Pokemon useless? Again, the people who haven't seen the show or don't really know that much about the show aren't trained this way. So objectively speaking, there's nothing about Raichu that makes him necessarily bad. Okay. Plus, the mascot of the entire series is Pikachu, so it's kind of like the younger sibling being the favorite child. Nothing is wrong with Big Brother Raichu, as he gets good grades, but he's just not varsity material like little brother Pikachu. But Raichu as a Pokemon is better in every aspect. I really just don't. Oh, that's so annoying. Oh my gosh, that's so short-sighted. That's so. Can't explain just all the reasons why that's not a good argument, but whatever. I think I will stop it here for this video because next is the next 5, and I have a couple of issues with some of the top 5 too. So this is it for part 1, and I'll see you next time.